Greetings everybody, and welcome to Just an Arm channel. If you're new, please like, subscribe, and share my content as it helps the channel grow greatly. Today, we're going to be discussing some fun facts on Jack Kirby. He was born in 1917 and died in 1994. What is he known for? Well, many of you already know. American comic book artist who helped create hundreds of original characters, including Captain America, the Incredible Hulk, the Fantastic Four, so on and so forth. Jack Kirby is one of the most influential figures within the comic book industry, helping to establish Marvel as a dominant force with his work. He is forgotten by the large corporations that have destroyed what these great creators have brought to life for so many fans over the decades, and is forgotten by those corporations. An interesting person, to say the least. I didn't know much before I actually did this fun facts. And he had an interesting and tragic life that is, in my opinion, overshadowed, and rightfully so, but sad at the same time. His real name is Jacob Kurtzberg. Jack Kirby was his pen name. He developed and something he has since become synonymous for. However, during his time within the industry, Jack Kirby has gone through plenty of pen names, including such as Jack Curtis or Charles Nicholas. However, eventually the name of Jack Kirby stuck, and during his career, he changed it legally to what it is today. He has been doing comic books since he was a teenager, like Stan Lee. He was a teenager when he started. Interesting, isn't it? When Jack Kirby was involved with Marvel Comics during their best era, he was in his late 30s and early 40s. Even before that time, though, Jack Kirby had drawn dozens upon dozens of comics. When he was roughly around 18 or 19 years old, he has worked on numerous comics with the likes of Eisner and Iger. By the time he created one of his most famous characters, Captain America, he was only 24 years old. That is crazy. But then it makes sense for the time period too, for what he created in Captain America. He was involved with the animation for Popeye. Another great tidbit. Who didn't like Popeye? He is such a great cartoon, old to even now, doing in-betweens with Fleischer Studios, and a lot of this truly adds to why Kirby's figures and actions in comics were so dynamic and kinetic, as he had worked in animations and knew how characters should move. This is and has shown especially well through his time during the Silver Age, demonstrating the versatility of his skills. Some forgotten history. He and Joe Simon helped establish the romantic comic genre. Interesting, isn't it? Although Jack Kirby is most famous for his science fiction, fantasy, and superhero work, one of the biggest developments that he and Joe Simon created was the romantic genre. There, they created stories that were able to influence future titles so much as his work within Marvel. To this day, many of the elements of his romantic comics can be seen today through the drama and emotions of his characters. Further, he created a technique called Kirby dots. There have been many innovations that Jack Kirby put into his art, elements that were brought into the story in a way that wasn't seen at the time, which would explain why it looks so unique. One of the things he put in, which could be argued as a signature, was Kirby's dots or Kirby crackles. which helped to illustrate the illustrations of smoke or space. The powerful effects that has a deep effect on the reader. His drawing techniques and tools were very basic. This is a very interesting, but not very surprising for the time period that he grew up in. So, and the tools were very basic, practical, while giving the reader so much to analyze, which lacks a lot in today's comic books. However, Kirby drew with a good old-fashioned wooden pencil and table. It would only be occasion he would use ink or color his own work. It has been said that his pencil work was so direct and on point that you could understand it without color, which makes sense from the area he grew up in as a child. He grew up in the Roaring '20s, the Depression, the lack of so many things to keeping to very basic tools that were available, but being practical, a hallmark of what has been missed upon within our everyday common day and era. No one per struggles in terms of what was in the '20s, the stock market crash, World War I, and World War II. What came of that time? If you happen to look back, you will find so many greats that emerged out of that time of the real struggle, the splitting up of families, entire livelihoods wiped out overnight, which none of us today can even comprehend by any means. And I think that completely really shaped his idea. A lot like I said with Stan Lee as well too. Despite his immense detail, he was inhumanly fast. One of the craziest things about Jack Kirby was his immense speed as an artist. He's able to draw all kinds of unique technology, environments, and characters in a very detailed way, all the while drawing at least 5 pages a day. For content, most artists can only draw at least 1 to 3 pages. 1 to 3 pages a day. This speed allowed Jack Kirby to be able to make it on time with all of his numerous deadlines and earned him the respect of many comic book artists for being able to maintain his quality. His imagination is boundless. It is no mystery that Jack Kirby's imagination is easily one of his most powerful traits as a person. I also wonder if he had kind of identical, people like him, they've got some type of, not mutation, but, like we have autistic children today and stuff like that, I wonder if he had some type of spectrum that we labeled today, you know what I'm saying? And it's not a bad thing either, because they tend to think that Albert Einstein was like that too. So, it is no mystery, though. His imagination, like I said, is boundless. It is no mystery that Jack Kirby's imagination is easily one of his most powerful traits as a person. He's able to create numerous characters, even several different races, so that his new worlds were full of unique biomes and cultures. All of these are elements that have stuck around to this day with his work at Marvel. It is unlikely that the world and legacy of the company would be where it is today if it wasn't for Jack Kirby, of course. He revolutionized comic book art to be more dynamic, which I've got to say lacks a lot of imagination today and stuff. I think because a lot of us didn't grow up in, struggling environments like Kirby and stuff. The 20s, the 30s, and 40s were very volatile times in U.S. history and stuff, So Jack Kirby's art was so influenced not just for his unique style, his new effects, or even his speed. What makes him incredibly impactful and influential was his use of action and pacing within his panels. Each page would look seemingly as if the story wasn't able to be contained within his drawings. That I can say and stuff. In my research and doing this and stuff, I've got to say he's got a very unique look that I don't think anybody can compare. I almost think too, to a certain point, that Jack Kirby's better than Stan Lee and stuff too as well. I know that's probably blasphemy, probably. What makes him incredibly impactful and influential was his use of action pack within his panels. Each page would look seemingly as if the story was unable to be contained within his drawings. His action lines and the way the figures are drawn in terms of their movement gave a real sense of how dynamic the various heroes were. His style has continued to influence other comic artists to this day. Has it really? I don't think so. Maybe influenced, but nowhere. And you know what I'm saying? He created the Marvel Universe. By far the most important thing about Jack Kirby is his impactful work within Marvel Comics. Although he has done work in DC Comics and created elements like the New Gods, the true levels of his genius came from his Marvel work. Today, with Stan Lee, he is easily able to create a universe that has become increasingly popular and successful. He is primarily responsible for creating amazing characters like Thor, the Fantastic Four, and many, many more. In closing thoughts, this is episode 1 of several more to come, but it will happen over time. But in closing, we will have our next one with Jack Kirby. We'll be discussing his influence on DC Comics. Take care, everybody. Like, subscribe, and share. I hope you enjoyed this. Bye.